These are the top 10 colorless lands in the history of Magic the Gathering. These are lands that produce colorless and only colorless. They are not lands that do a cool thing like Glacial Chasm. They have to tap to add colorless and only colorless. And for the sake of Commander, these are playable in every deck as they all have a colorless color identity. A couple quick honorable mentions. We're going to start out with Rishad in Port. This is a land that taps for colorless, and then for 1 and a tap, you can tap target land. Classically powerful card, good in Legacy, not really quite as good as it once was, but definitely an interesting card, and one that if you're thinking about this list, you have to give a shout out to. Second, I'll go Cloud Post. This is a land that taps to add 1 colorless to your mana pool for each locust in play. It comes into play tapped. It's a locust land. Cloud Post was banned early on in Modern because the power of the locust lands is just a bit higher than like the Urza's Power Plant Mine Tower trio. Very cool, very interesting, just like not historically significant because it doesn't see play in big formats in the same way that some of the other stuff on this list does. So let's get to the actual top 10. Coming in number 10, I'm going to go Ugin's Labyrinth. This is a relatively new card. Comes in, has imprint. So when it enters the battlefield, you may exile a colorless card, mana value 7 or greater from your hand. Now it taps to add 1 colorless to your mana pool, but if a card is exiled with it, it adds 2 colorless instead. Final ability allows you to tap it to add the exiled card into your hand. It just does a lot, right? It's an untapped land source on turn 1 that basically is a soul land, tapping for 2 if you have something you can exile, but then puts the giant thing that you don't want in your opening hand back into your hand later. Really, really powerful design. Unsurprising that it comes from Horizon set. It's number 10 for me. Number 9, I'm going to go with Inkmoth Nexus. This is a colorless land, enters untapped. For 1, you can turn it into a 1/1 Blinkmoth artifact creature worth flying, and Infect. It's still a land. Invariably the single most powerful Infect card ever printed, a card that has basically made Infect a thing in multiple formats. I actually like to play this in Commander decks, in any Commander deck, because if you put like a giant thing that beefs this up, like a Runechanter's Pike in a blue spells deck, you can just one-shot people. Love me some Inkmoth Nexus. 8, I'm going to go with the Urza's lands. We're just going to show Urza's Tower here, but you know, Mine and Power Plant tap for 2 if you have all 3 of them, and Tower taps for 3. They all tap for 1 colorless, untapped if you only have 1. The Urza's lands have been staples in Modern and other formats like that for years. Like I mentioned with the Locust lands, these are a little bit less good, but just a little bit more consistent. You've seen a lot of, you know, Tron decks as they're referred to playing this for years. You can't deny the power of an Urza's land. Number 7, we're going to go with City of Traders, a land that comes in untapped. If you play a land, you have to sacrifice it. Taps to add 2 colorless to your mana pool. It's on the reserve list. You don't see as much City of Traders as you otherwise would. It's a very, very powerful riff on this sort of soul land style. Played in Mud decks and Legacy for years. Just a really great way to ramp early. It's just obviously not quite as good as like an Ancient Tomb, for instance, which is why this is going to be number 7. But still, crazy powerful. Quick reminder, I try to keep these under 3 minutes so I can post them to all platforms, so I do them in 2 parts. Hit that follow button if you guys want to see part 2. Let's get to number 6. In the number 6 slot, we're going to go Wasteland. It taps to add 1 colorless to your mana pool, untapped, and also taps to sacrifice and destroy a non-basic land. Because Strip Mine is not legal in Legacy, people have been playing Wasteland and Mana Denial tempo decks for years, and it's just an undeniably powerful card. It's a chase card in many sets as a reprint because it's so good. Not yet legal in Modern, but I'll bet you at some point it's coming. I'm going to hit post on this and go and record part 2, the top 5 colorless lands of all time. Remember, this video is brought to you guys by Dragon Shields. If you ever need Dragon Shield products, make sure you hit that link in my bio and use my name, Ben Bateman, all lowercase, for 5% off your order. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in part 2.